Wolfless Omega caught her mate cheating. So she took a stranger's hand in marriage. Unaware he was the ruthless Alpha King, a werewolf romance audiobook written by Lyra Blake. Before we dive in, if this is your first time listening to one of our audiobooks, hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you more powerful stories like this one. Stick around until the very end of the video, and if Kai's story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments and share this audiobook to a friend. Now let's begin. Chapter 1, The Shattering. When trust breaks, even the moon weeps. The scream building in my throat never made it past my lips. Through Derek's bedroom window, I watched my entire world collapse in slow motion. His hands, the same hands that had wiped away my tears countless times, were tangled in Scarlett's honey blonde hair. Her back arched beneath him, and there, glowing fresh and angry on her neck, was his mark. His bite, the one that was supposed to be mine tomorrow night. My knees hit the ground, so hard I felt the impact through my bones. The bouquet of moonflowers I'd picked for our mating ceremony scattered across the dirt, white petals crushed under my trembling hands. Derek's head lifted, his dark eyes meeting mine through the glass. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then his lips curved into something that might have been regret or relief. Luna. My name on his lips was barely a whisper, but I heard it anyway. Wolfless didn't mean powerless, even if everyone in the Crescent Moon Pack treated me like I was both. Scarlett turned, her green eyes finding mine with wicked satisfaction. My stepsister had always been beautiful, tall, confident, blessed with a fierce silver wolf that had emerged on her 16th birthday like clockwork. Everything I wasn't. Everything I'd never be. She pressed closer to Derek, claiming what was mine with every deliberate movement. The bite mark on her neck pulsed with a bond I'd dreamed about for years. I ran. Branches tore at my dress. The pale blue one Derek had said brought out my eyes. The same dress I'd planned to burn after tomorrow's ceremony, symbolic of my old life ending and our new one beginning. Now it hung in tatters, much like everything else. The pack house came into view, its windows glowing with warm light. Inside, our families were probably sharing pre-ceremony drinks, discussing seating arrangements and honeymoon plans. My stomach lurched. I burst through the front door and conversations died mid-sentence. 20 pairs of eyes turned to me. Pack elders, family friends, Derek's parents. My stepmother, Patricia, rose from her chair like a queen receiving bad news. Luna, darling, you look terrible. What happened to your... It's off. The words came out raw, barely recognizable as my own voice. The ceremony, everything. It's off. Derek's mother, Helena, set down her wine glass with careful precision. What do you mean, off? Before I could answer, the front door opened behind me. Derek walked in, his shirt hastily buttoned, hair still messed from Scarlett's fingers. She followed, radiating smug victory, the mark on her neck hidden beneath a hastily thrown-on scarf. Derek. His father's voice carried a warning. What is the meaning of this? Derek cleared his throat, and I watched the boy who'd protected me from bullies transform into the man who'd just destroyed me. There's been a change of plans. A change. Patricia's voice rose an octave. The invitations have been sent. The ceremony is tomorrow. I've found my true mate. Derek's eyes found Scarlett, and the adoration there was like a knife between my ribs. Scarlett is my fated mate. The bond, it's undeniable. The room erupted. Voices overlapped in a chaos of shock and outrage, but all I heard was the roaring in my ears. Elder Morrison stood, his weathered face grim. This is highly irregular. Luna has been promised to you since childhood. The contract means nothing if there's no true bond, Derek interrupted. And there isn't. There never was. Each word hit like a physical blow. 5 years of courtship, of believing I was enough despite my missing wolf, of dreaming about our future, erased in seconds. How could there be a bond? Patricia's voice cut through the noise like ice. Luna doesn't even have a wolf. She's defective. broken. She turned to Derek with something like compassion. We should have known this would happen eventually. You're a beta heir. You need a mate who can stand beside you, not drag you down. The agreement in the room was a living thing, crushing the air from my lungs. Nods and murmurs of understanding rippled through our audience. Of course Derek had found someone else. What had they expected from a wolf-less Omega? Luna. Derek stepped toward me, and I saw pity in his dark eyes. The same pity I'd spent my whole life trying to escape. I'm sorry. I never meant for it to happen this way. But when Scarlett and I realized... How long? The question scraped out of me like broken glass. Derek and Scarlett exchanged a look that told me everything. 6 months, Scarlett said, lifting her chin with false bravery. We tried to fight it, Luna, but the mate bond. 6 months. I repeated the words, testing how they felt in my mouth. Bitter. Like poison. 6 months while you let me plan our wedding. While you kissed me goodnight and told me you loved me. I did love you, Derek said, and the past tense shattered what was left of my heart. As a friend. As family. But this, what Scarlett and I have, it's real, Luna. It's what you deserve to have too, someday. With someone who can truly be your mate. Someone who could love a broken, wolf-less girl. The unspoken words hung in the air like a challenge no one expected me to meet. The pack elders were already discussing damage control, guest notifications, how to minimize embarrassment to both families. I stood there invisible in my own rejection, watching my life reorganize itself around my absence. I walked out. No one followed. The forest welcomed me with familiar shadows and the scent of pine. I'd always felt more at home here than anywhere else, maybe because the trees didn't judge me for what I lacked. They simply existed, rooted and strong, asking nothing of me but my presence. The clearing I'd claimed as my sanctuary spread out before me, moonlight painting everything silver white. I collapsed onto the moss-covered ground and finally let myself break. The sobs came from somewhere deep and primal, a grief so complete it felt like dying. 23 years of believing I wasn't enough, confirmed in the cruelest way possible. Derek hadn't just chosen someone else. He'd chosen my stepsister. The woman who'd tormented me since our parents married, who'd made my defectiveness her favorite weapon. Pathetic. I looked up, tears still streaming down my face. A man stood at the edge of the clearing, tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in black from head to toe. The shadows seemed to bend around him, but his eyes, silver in the moonlight, were fixed on me with an intensity that made my breath catch. Excuse me. I scrambled to stand, suddenly aware of how I must look. Torn dress, dirt-stained knees, mascara probably streaking down my cheeks. He stepped into the light, and my heart stuttered. He was beautiful in a dangerous way. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and in presence that screamed power. Everything about him was controlled, predatory, like he was barely restraining something wild beneath the surface. You're sitting here crying over a man who never deserved you, he said, his voice low and rich. That's pathetic. You don't know anything about me. The words came out fiercer than I felt, surprising us both. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I know you're Luna Ashford. I know you just watched your mate claim another woman. I know your pack treats you like you're worthless because you don't shift. He tilted his head, studying me. And I know you're angry enough to do something about it. Who are you? Someone who can give you everything you need to make them regret what they've done. He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell his scent. Cedar and storms and something indefinably dangerous. But it would require a leap of faith. What kind of leap? His silver eyes held mine, and I felt something shift in the air between us. Power, promise, possibility. Marry me tonight, and I'll give you everything you need to make them regret what they've done. Chapter 2, The Bargain. Sometimes salvation comes in the form of beautiful danger. The stranger's marriage proposal hung in the air between us like a challenge, and I stared at him as if he'd lost his mind. You can't be serious. My voice cracked on the words. You don't even know me. I know enough. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, extending it toward me with steady fingers. Max Jackson, CEO of Jackson Industries. My breath caught. Everyone knew that name. The corporation that owned half the city's skyline. The mysterious billionaire who appeared in Forbes, but never in public. Rumors swirled around him like smoke. Some said he was old money from Europe. Others whispered he had ties to the Shadow Pact that vanished without a trace 30 years ago. I took the card with trembling hands, running my thumb over the raised lettering. Why would you want to marry someone like me? Someone like you? His silver eyes flashed with something dangerous. You mean someone who just discovered she's stronger than she ever imagined? Someone with nothing left to lose and everything to gain. I'm nobody. I don't even have a wolf. You have something more valuable than a wolf. He stepped closer, and the scent of him, wild and powerful, made my head spin. You have rage. Pure, justified rage. And I can teach you how to use it. The moonlight caught his features, highlighting the sharp angles of his face. Beautiful and terrifying, like a fallen angel offering salvation at a price I couldn't calculate. What do you get out of it? I asked. A year of your time. Complete discretion about who I am and what I do. In return, you get $10 million, business training that will make you untouchable, and the tools to rebuild yourself into someone they'll never dare underestimate again. $10 million. The number was so large it felt fictional. And after a year, you walk away with everything I've given you. No strings attached. His smile was sharp as a blade. Unless you choose otherwise. Something in his tone made my pulse race. Choose otherwise. There are some contracts, Luna, that become more binding than paper ever could. Before I could ask what he meant, he glanced at his watch. Expensive. Understated, probably worth more than my stepmother's car. We have 3 hours before dawn. If you're going to do this, it has to be now. Now. The word came out strangled. You mean tonight? I don't make offers twice. He tilted his head, studying me with those unsettling silver eyes. The question is, do you want to spend the rest of your life as Derek's tragic almost mate, or do you want them to remember you as the woman who rose from the ashes of their cruelty? The image hit me like a physical blow. Derek's pity, Scarlett's smug satisfaction, Patricia's dismissive disappointment. My pack's collective sigh of relief that the defective girl was finally someone else's problem. If I say yes, I whispered, there's no going back? There's never any going back, Luna. There's only forward. He extended his hand toward me. The choice is yours. I stared at his outstretched palm, large, scarred across the knuckles, radiating heat I could feel from inches away. This was insane. I was standing in a forest clearing with a stranger who wanted to marry me for reasons I couldn't begin to understand. But when I closed my eyes, I saw Derek's hands in Scarlett's hair, heard Patricia's voice calling me defective, felt the weight of 23 years of not being enough. I placed my hand in his. The moment our skin touched, electricity shot up my arm. Not the gentle warmth books described when mates found each other. This was raw power, wild and untamed, making every nerve ending in my body sing. Max's eyes widened slightly, and I realized he felt it too. Interesting, he murmured. But before I could ask what he meant, he was leading me toward a sleek black car that materialized from the shadows like it had been waiting. The drive passed in a blur of city lights and racing thoughts. Max made phone calls in languages I didn't recognize, his voice low and commanding. Whatever he was arranging, it was happening fast. Where are we going? I finally asked as we pulled up to a stone chapel tucked between towering buildings. It looked ancient, out of place among the modern architecture, like it had been there long before the city grew up around it. Somewhere that understands the old ways, Max said cryptically. He helped me from the car, and again that electric shock traveled between us. Some ceremonies require traditional venues. Inside, the chapel was lit by candles and moonlight streaming through stained glass windows. A minister waited at the altar, A woman with silver hair and knowing eyes that seemed to see too much. Two figures stood in the shadows as witnesses, their faces hidden but their presence unnaturally still. "You're certain about this?" the minister asked Max, her voice carrying an accent I couldn't place. "The binding will be complete." "I'm certain." Max turned to me. "Last chance, Luna. After this, everything changes." I thought of Derek announcing Scarlett as his true mate, of the pack elders nodding in understanding, of Patricia's pitying smile. "I'm ready." The ceremony was unlike anything I'd ever witnessed. The words were old, older than the pack rituals I knew, and when the minister spoke them, the air itself seemed to hum with power. Max's responses were confident, certain, like he'd done this before. Mine came out steady despite my racing heart. When he slipped the ring onto my finger, platinum with a stone that seemed to capture moonlight, I felt something click into place. Not love, not yet, but recognition. Like my soul was remembering something it had forgotten. "You may kiss the bride," the minister said, and there was satisfaction in her ancient voice. Max cupped my face gently, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone. "Trust me," he whispered, so low only I could hear. When his lips touched mine, the world exploded. Heat raced through my veins, wild and untamed. Every cell in my body came alive, stretching toward something just beyond my reach. For a moment, just a moment, I felt whole in a way I'd never experienced. Like I was exactly who I was meant to be. Max pulled back, his silver eyes dark with something I couldn't name. "Welcome to your new life, Mrs. Jackson." The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind of transformation. Max had meant what he said about business training. Every morning, a team of consultants arrived at the penthouse. His penthouse, I reminded myself, though he'd given me free rein of everything. Wardrobe specialists, etiquette coaches, financial advisors, language tutors. I absorbed everything like a starving person at a feast. "Confidence is a choice," my image consultant, Vivian, told me as she held up a designer dress that probably cost more than I used to make in a month. "You can choose to carry yourself like someone who belongs, or you can choose to apologize for taking up space. Which do you want to be?" I stared at my reflection in the full-length mirror. The woman looking back at me was barely recognizable. Hair styled by professionals, makeup applied with expert precision, wearing clothes that fit like they were made for me. Which they were. "I want to belong," I said, and meant it. Max appeared in doorways sometimes, watching my transformation with unreadable expressions. He was gone most days. Business, he said vaguely, but he left notes. Encouragement. Challenges. Small observations about my progress that showed he was paying attention even when I thought he wasn't. "Your posture is improving. Remember, you bow to no one. The financial statements are excellent. You have good instincts. Vivian says you argued with her about the red dress. Good. Never let anyone tell you what you should want. We lived like polite strangers sharing an elegant space. Separate bedrooms, careful boundaries, conversations that danced around the electricity that sparked every time we accidentally touched. But I felt him watching me, studying me like he was waiting for something. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. The Crescent Moon Pack's Alpha Anniversary Gala, I read aloud, the expensive cardstock heavy in my hands. In honor of Alpha Marcus and Luna Helena's 25th year of leadership. Derek's parents. The event would be packed with pack members visiting Alphas, every important werewolf family in the region, including Derek and Scarlett, now officially mated and basking in their new status. Max appeared behind me, reading over my shoulder. Interesting timing. "I can't go to this." I set the invitation down like it might bite me. "They'll all be there. Derek, Scarlett, my stepmother." "Yes, they will." Max moved around to face me, his expression serious. "Which is exactly why you're going." "Max, do you remember what you told me that night in the forest? About Derek being your childhood protector?" His silver eyes held mine. "The man who protected you is gone, Luna. But the woman who survived his betrayal? She's right here. And she's magnificent. Something warm unfurled in my chest at his words. When Max looked at me like that, like I was powerful, like I mattered, I almost believed it myself. I don't think I'm ready. You are. He reached out, his fingers brushing mine, and that familiar electricity danced between us. Trust me. The night of the gala, I stood in front of the mirror and barely recognized myself. The dress was midnight blue, cut to perfection, making me look taller and more elegant than I'd ever imagined possible. Diamonds, real ones, Max had insisted, glittered at my throat and ears. My hair fell in soft waves past my shoulders, and my makeup was flawless. I looked like I belonged in this world of power and privilege, like I'd been born to it. Ready. Max appeared behind me, devastating in his black tuxedo. He looked like old money and new danger, sophisticated and wild all at once. As ready as I'll ever be. He offered me his arm, and when I took it, that spark traveled between us again. Stronger now, after weeks of small touches and careful distance. It was getting harder to ignore. This pull between us that had nothing to do with our business arrangement. The gala was held at the city's most exclusive hotel. The ballroom glittering with chandeliers and filled with the scent of power. Conversations paused as we entered, heads turning to track our progress. I heard whispers, Luna Ashford, Max Jackson married, when, how, but I kept my chin up and my hand steady on Max's arm. Remember, he murmured as we descended the stairs, you're not the same woman who left here 3 weeks ago. Then I saw them. Derek and Scarlett stood near the bar, surrounded by well-wishers and pack members eager to curry favor with the newly mated couple. Scarlett wore white, of course she did, and Derek's arm was possessively tight around her waist. They looked happy, successful, like they'd gotten everything they wanted, until they saw me. Derek's glass froze halfway to his lips, his dark eyes widening with shock. Scarlett followed his gaze, and I watched the color drain from her face. Conversations around them stuttered to a halt as people turned to see what had captured the beta heir's attention. I smiled, the kind of smile Vivian had taught me, confident, mysterious, slightly dangerous. Luna. Derek's voice carried across the space between us, disbelief and something else, something that looked like regret, coloring his tone. Max's hand covered mine on his arm, warm and reassuring. Breathe, he whispered. You've got this. We moved through the crowd like royalty, people stepping aside to let us pass. I caught fragments of whispered conversations. Who is he? How much is he worth? She looks incredible, but all I could focus on was the growing awareness in Derek's eyes. He was realizing what he'd lost. Not the broken, wolf-less girl he'd pitted, but this woman, confident, beautiful, powerful in ways that had nothing to do with shifting. Derek. Scarlett. I kept my voice level as we approached, though my heart was racing. Congratulations on your mating. Scarlett recovered first, lifting her chin with false bravado. Luna. You look different. Marriage suits me. I felt Max's approval in the slight squeeze of his fingers on mine. Derek. I'd like you to meet my husband. Max Jackson. Derek's face went white. Everyone in the supernatural community knew that name, even if they'd never seen the man behind it. Jackson Industries, he breathed. Among other things. Max's voice was pleasant, but there was steel underneath. Derek, isn't it? Luna's mentioned you. The implication hung in the air that I discussed Derek with my powerful new husband, that Max knew exactly what had happened between us. Derek's jaw clenched, and I saw the moment he understood that I wasn't here seeking reconciliation or closure. I was here to show him exactly what he'd thrown away. How? When did you? Derek stumbled over the words, his composure cracking. 3 weeks ago, I said simply. Right after your mating ceremony, actually. Scarlett's grip on Derek's arm tightened, her green eyes flashing with something that might have been fear. She'd built her identity around being the woman Derek chose over his childhood promise. But looking at us now, Max and me, power and elegance and barely contain electricity, she had to be wondering if she'd won the wrong prize. Luna. Derek stepped forward, lowering his voice. Can we talk? Privately. I don't think that's appropriate, Max said before I could respond. His tone was mild, but there was nothing mild about the way he moved slightly closer to me. Protective. Possessive. Luna is exactly where she belongs. With me, I added, meeting Derek's eyes. This is where I belong. For a moment, Derek looked like he might argue. Then his shoulders sagged, and I saw 20 years of friendship and history collapse into acceptance. You're happy. The question surprised me with its sincerity. I glanced up at Max, taking in his sharp profile. The way he'd positioned himself between me and any threat, the careful way he'd orchestrated my transformation without ever making me feel like a project. Yes, I said, and realized I meant it. I am. Derek nodded slowly. Good. I'm glad. We moved away then, Max guiding me toward the dance floor with the easy confidence of a man who owned every room he entered. As we swept into a waltz, I caught sight of Derek watching us, something like loss haunting his expression. He's realizing what he gave up, Max murmured against my ear as we turned. Good. The word came out fiercer than I expected, surprising us both. Max's silver eyes lit with approval. There she is, the woman who married a stranger to reclaim her power. He spun me expertly, and I felt like I was flying. How does it feel? Intoxicating, I admitted. It's just the beginning. As the song ended, an elderly man approached us. I recognized him as Elder Thorne, one of the most respected leaders in the supernatural community. His weathered face was grave as he studied Max with ancient, knowing eyes. Mr. Jackson, he said carefully, an honor to finally meet you. Elder Thorne. Max inclined his head respectfully, but I sensed tension in the gesture. The old man's gaze shifted to me, and I felt pinned by the weight of his stare. And you must be the new Mrs. Jackson. Luna Ashford, daughter of Elena Silvermoon. My breath caught. No one ever mentioned my mother's maiden name. She died when I was 5, and the pack had always treated her memory like something shameful to be forgotten. You knew my mother? I asked. Elder Thorne smiled, but there was sadness in it. I knew your grandmother. Remarkable woman. You have her eyes. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Max and I could hear. I know what you are, child. And if he's who I think he is, your marriage isn't the business arrangement you believe. Before either of us could respond, the elder melted back into the crowd, leaving me staring after him with a dozen new questions burning in my mind. Max, I started, but he was already leading me toward the exit, his jaw tight with something that looked like worry. We need to go, he said. Now. As we stepped into the cool night air, I caught his arm. What did he mean? What aren't you telling me? Max looked down at me, conflict warring in his silver eyes. Some secrets, Luna, are more dangerous than you can imagine. More dangerous than marrying a stranger? His smile was sharp and sad. Much more. Chapter 3, Awakening Powers. The wolf who sleeps longest often roars loudest. Elder Thorne's words haunted me for days after the gala, circling through my mind like a riddle I couldn't solve. The dream started that same night. I stood in a moonlit clearing surrounded by wolves with silver fur that gleamed like starlight. A woman with my face but ancient eyes reached toward me, her lips moving in words I couldn't hear. Behind her, shadows writhed and twisted into shapes that made my soul recognize something it had never known. Wake up, she whispered, and I jolted awake in my silk sheets, heart racing and skin tingling with phantom electricity. Max was never there when I woke. We still maintained our careful distance, orbiting each other like planets afraid of collision. But something was changing. The air between us crackled with tension that had nothing to do with our business arrangement and everything to do with the way he watched me when he thought I wasn't looking. Like he was waiting for something to happen. It did. On a Thursday morning that started like any other. I was walking back from my financial planning session, designer heels clicking against the sidewalk, when I heard it. A sound that made every nerve in my body scream danger. tires squealing, metal grinding, a child's terrified scream. The world slowed. A delivery truck had run the red light, barreling toward a little boy who'd chased his ball into the street. His mother's horror-stricken face was frozen behind the crosswalk, too far away to reach him. The truck driver was already slamming the brakes, but physics and momentum had already written the ending. Except I moved. Not walked, not ran. Moved like I was flying, like space folded around me and delivered me exactly where I needed to be. My arms wrapped around the little boy just as the truck's bumper brushed my shoulder, and then we were rolling across the asphalt in a tangle of limbs and impossible survival. The boy was crying but breathing, clinging to me with small fists. I should have been broken, should have been dying from the impact. Instead, I felt more alive than I ever had. How did you? The truck driver stumbled out of his cab, face white with shock. You were across the street. I saw you across the street. A crowd gathered, phones recording, voices overlapping in amazement and confusion. The boy's mother sobbed as she clutched him, thanking me over and over. But all I could focus on was the strange humming in my bones, like tuning forks struck in perfect harmony. Ma'am, are you hurt? A paramedic knelt beside me, checking my pulse with professional concern. That was incredible reflexes, but you should let us examine. I'm fine. I stood, brushing dust from my clothes. Not even a scratch. Really, I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. I was something else entirely. Max was waiting when I walked into the penthouse, his silver eyes dark with something that looked like fear and anticipation wrapped together. It's starting, he said without preamble. What's starting? But even as I asked, I knew. The dreams, the impossible speed, the way moonlight seemed to call to something sleeping in my chest. You're awakening. He moved closer, close enough that I could smell cedar and storms and wild things. Luna, what happened today wasn't luck or adrenaline. You moved faster than humanly possible. Your strength. I don't have a wolf. The words came out desperate, clinging to 23 years of accepted truth. Everyone knows that. The pack tested me over and over. There's nothing there. There's everything there. Max's hand lifted like he wanted to touch my face, then dropped. It was just sleeping. Waiting. Waiting for what? For you to be ready. For the right trigger. His smile was sharp and proud. For someone to show you that strength comes in forms the pack never taught you to recognize. The air between us hummed with electricity, and I felt that familiar pull toward him. Stronger now, insistent, like my body recognized something my mind hadn't caught up to. Show me, I whispered. We drove to the same forest where he'd found me broken and desperate a month ago. But this time, I wasn't running from anything. I was running towards something I'd never dared hope for. The first shift is different for everyone, Max said as we walked deeper into the trees. But yours will be unlike anything the packs have seen in generations. How do you know? He stopped walking, turning to face me in the moonlight. Because I know what you are, Luna. What you've always been. Before I could ask what he meant, heat exploded through my veins. Not painful, exhilarating. Like every cell in my body was remembering its true purpose. I gasped, doubling over as power rolled through me in waves. Don't fight it. Max's voice seemed to come from far away. Let it happen. The world tilted, shifted, reformed around me. My senses sharpened until I could hear a rabbit's heartbeat 50 yards away. Smell the unique scent signature of every creature in the forest. My bones elongated, muscles restructured themselves, and then I was flying. Not literally, but running on four legs with a speed and grace that made my human form feel clumsy by comparison. The forest blurred past in streams of green and silver, and I reveled in the pure joy of movement without limitation. When I finally stopped, panting and exhilarated, I caught my reflection in a still pond. The wolf looking back at me was impossible. Pure silver fur that seemed to capture and hold moonlight. Eyes that glowed like stars. I was larger than any wolf I'd ever seen, more elegant, with an otherworldly beauty that made my chest tight with recognition. This is who I am. Max stepped into view behind my reflection, and I saw his expression, awe, satisfaction, and something that looked like longing. Silver Moon, he said quietly. The lost bloodline. The pack everyone thought extinct. I shifted back to human form, the transition smooth as silk now that I'd found the key. Max immediately shrugged out of his jacket, wrapping it around my bare shoulders without meeting my eyes. My grandmother, I breathed, memories clicking into place. The photos in Elder Thorne's words. She was the last Silver Moon Alpha's daughter, hidden away when the pack was attacked, her identity erased to keep her safe. Max's hands lingered on the jacket's lapels, so close I could feel his breath against my forehead. Your mother carried the bloodline, but the trauma of losing her family locked her wolf away. When she died, everyone assumed the line died with her. But it didn't. No, it was just sleeping in you, waiting for the right moment to wake up. His thumbs brushed across my collarbone, and I shivered at the contact. Luna, do you understand what this means? You're not just some random Omega. You're royalty. The last heir to one of the most powerful bloodlines in North American werewolf history. The weight of it hit me like a physical blow. All those years of being dismissed, pitted, treated like a defect, and I was descended from legends. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because you had to discover it yourself. Had to choose to embrace what you are instead of having it forced on you. His hands cupped my face, and the electricity between us sparked into something that felt like lightning. I've been searching for you for years, Luna. The last Silver Moon. The key to everything. The key to what? But before he could answer, his phone buzzed with an urgent text. His expression darkened as he read it. We need to go, he said, stepping back and leaving me cold without his touch. Now, what's wrong? Derek's been calling. Repeatedly. Max's jaw tightened with barely controlled anger. Apparently, your former mate has decided he wants you back. We found Derek pacing outside the penthouse building like a caged animal. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his clothes wrinkled, and there was desperation in his dark eyes that I'd never seen before. Luna. He rushed toward us, but Max stepped smoothly between us, a wall of protective fury. You're not welcome here, Max said, his voice deadly quiet. I need to talk to her. Derek's gaze found mine over Max's shoulder, and I saw genuine pain there. Please, Luna. Just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I nodded. Max's tension was palpable, but he stepped aside, though he remained close enough to intervene if needed. What do you want, Derek? You. The word came out raw, desperate. I want you back. I stared at him in disbelief. You're mated to Scarlet. The bond is failing. He ran hands through his hair, leaving it even more disheveled. It's been failing since the night I saw you at the gala. Luna, I can't eat, can't sleep. Scarlet and I, we fight constantly. The connection we thought we had, it's not real. It never was real. Unlike your connection to me, I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. The one you threw away for 6 months of secret meetings with my stepsister? I was an idiot. Confused. The pack kept saying we weren't right for each other, that you needed someone who could understand what it was like to be different. Derek stepped closer, and I smelled his familiar scent, pine and leather and regret. But they were wrong. We were right. We've always been right. No, Derek. We were never right. The words came out clearer than I expected, without the pain I thought they'd carry. We were comfortable. Safe. But that's not the same thing. Then why does it feel like I'm dying without you? His voice broke. Luna, I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But please. She's not interested. We turned to see Max approaching, his expression thunderous. But it wasn't anger that made my breath catch. It was the way he moved, like a predator who'd identified a threat to something precious. Derek's posture shifted, instincts recognizing danger. This is between Luna and me. Nothing involving my wife is just between you and her. Max's smile was all teeth, especially when my wife has clearly told you no. Your wife? Derek's laugh was bitter. You bought her, Jackson. Don't pretend this is some grand love story. The air crackled with tension, and I felt something dangerous building in Max's stillness. But before either man could escalate, I stepped forward. Derek, go home to your mate. My voice was calm, final. What we had is over. What I have now. I glanced at Max, seeing something fierce and protective and possessive in his silver eyes. This is real. Derek's face crumpled. Luna, go home, I repeated. He left, shoulders slumped in defeat, and I felt nothing but relief. No regret, no lingering affection. Just the satisfaction of a door finally closing on a chapter that had needed to end. Are you all right? Max asked, his hand finding the small of my back. More than all right. I turned to face him fully. I'm exactly where I belong. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, heat, recognition. Luna, I need to ask you something, I interrupted, suddenly desperate to understand the man who'd given me everything. Your study. You have books about pack histories, don't you? Yes. His answer was cautious. Show me. Max's private study was a shrine to supernatural history. Ancient texts lined floor-to-ceiling shelves, maps marked with territories long forgotten, and photographs spanning decades of pack leaders and their families. But what stopped my heart was the wall dedicated to Silver Moon pack history. Photos of wolves with fur like starlight, family trees documenting bloodlines back centuries, and there, in a place of honor, a portrait of a woman who looked exactly like me. My grandmother, I breathed, reaching toward the image with trembling fingers. Elena Silvermoon, the last Alpha's daughter. Max moved to stand behind me, close enough that I could feel his heat against my back. She was powerful, Luna. Legendary. Some said she could command the moon itself. I studied the photo, seeing my own features reflected in her face. But there was something else, a strength, a wildness that I was only just beginning to understand might live in me too. How long have you known? I asked. Known what? That I was Silver Moon. That you were looking for me specifically. I turned to face him, and his expression confirmed what I'd suspected. This wasn't coincidence, was it? You finding me that night. Max was quiet for a long moment, conflict warring in his silver eyes. No, he finally said. It wasn't coincidence. Then what was it? Destiny. Necessity. The answer to a search I've been conducting for 20 years. He moved to his desk, pulling out a thick folder. Luna, there are things about the supernatural world that the pack never taught you. Ancient laws, older powers, bloodlines that carry responsibilities most wolves can't imagine. He handed me the folder and I opened it with shaking hands. Inside were documents, contracts, genealogical charts, and there on official letterhead, a marriage agreement with both our signatures. But at the bottom, in Max's handwriting, was an amendment I'd never seen before. If she discovers the truth about her heritage before the year ends, the contract becomes void, and she'll be free to choose. My heart stopped. What does this mean? Max's expression was careful, guarded. It means exactly what it says. You know the truth now, Luna. You know what you are, what your bloodline represents. The choice is yours. Choice about what? Whether to stay married to a man who sought you out for reasons you're only beginning to understand. His voice was quiet, controlled, but I heard the uncertainty underneath. Or to claim your freedom and the power that's rightfully yours. I stared at the amendment, at the careful script that gave me everything I thought I wanted. Freedom, choice, the power to walk away with no strings attached. But as I looked at Max, at the man who'd shown me who I really was, who'd watched me transform with pride and hunger and something that looked dangerously like love, I realized I didn't want freedom from this. I wanted him. The question was, did he want me or just what I represented? Max, I started, but he was already moving toward the door. Think about it, he said without turning around. Take all the time you need. The choice is entirely yours. He left me alone with photographs of my heritage and a contract that had just changed everything. Chapter 4. The Alpha King's Secret. Love isn't a choice, it's a recognition. I stared at the contract amendment until the words blurred, my heart pounding against my ribs like a caged bird. The penthouse felt too quiet, too vast, with Max's absence echoing in every room. 3 days had passed since he'd left me with that impossible choice, and I hadn't seen him since. His side of the bed remained untouched, his coffee cup absent from the kitchen counter. Even his scent was fading from the spaces we'd shared. But I could feel him, somewhere in the city, like a magnetic pull I couldn't ignore. I found him on the roof garden at dawn, standing at the edge with his hands braced on the railing. The wind whipped through his dark hair, and for a moment he looked less like a corporate titan and more like what I was beginning to suspect he really was, something wild barely contained in human skin. Running away won't make this easier, I said. He didn't turn around. I'm not running. I'm giving you space to think. I've done nothing but think for 3 days. I moved to stand beside him, studying his profile in the early morning light. I have questions. I figured you might. The contract amendment. When did you write it? The night we married. His smile was bitter. Right after I realized what I'd done. Which was fallen in love with someone I'd married for entirely different reasons. He finally looked at me, and the raw honesty in his silver eyes made my breath catch. Luna, when I found you that night in the forest, I thought I was saving a broken girl who could help me fulfill an ancient obligation. I never expected. Expected what? You. The word came out rough, like it had been torn from somewhere deep. Everything you are. Everything you make me feel. My heart stuttered. What obligation? Max was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he pulled out his phone, scrolling to a photo that made my blood run cold. A formal document, aged and official, bearing seals I recognized from supernatural law texts. At the top, in elaborate script, Treaty of the Silver Moon Accord. 25 years ago, Max said quietly, your grandmother signed this treaty. It bound the Silver Moon Pact's power to the protection of all North American werewolves, with one condition: the bloodline had to survive. If it died out, the magical protections would fail, and we'd be vulnerable to attacks from overseas supernatural factions. I stared at the document, my grandmother's signature bold and decisive at the bottom. And you've been looking for me to fulfill this treaty for 20 years. Ever since your mother died and we realized you were the last. His hand covered mine on the railing, warm and steady. Luna, without a Silver Moon heir to renew the pact, every pack in North America is at risk. The weight of it hit me like a physical blow. So our marriage was supposed to be purely practical, a way to keep you safe while we figured out how to restore the protections. His thumb traced circles on my knuckles. But somewhere between watching you discover your strength and seeing you transform into the woman you were always meant to be, practical became impossible. Because you're my mate. The words hung between us like a confession. Not the political alliance I planned for. Not the treaty obligation I needed to fulfill. My actual, God's damned, once-in-a-lifetime mate. My heart stopped, then started again at double speed. How can you be sure? Instead of answering with words, Max cupped my face in his hands and kissed me. This time, there was nothing careful or restrained about it. Heat exploded through my veins, wild and demanding, and I felt my wolf rise to meet something equally powerful in him. The mate bond snapped into place like puzzle pieces finding their home, and suddenly everything made sense. The electricity between us, the way he watched me, the protective fury that flared whenever someone threatened me. It wasn't just attraction or business partnership. It was recognition. Soul deep, eternal, undeniable recognition. When we broke apart, I was breathing hard and clinging to his shirt. You're not just wealthy, are you? His smile was sharp and resigned. No. Then what are you? the Alpha King of all North American packs. The one who is supposed to keep the peace between territories, mediate disputes, and protect our people from external threats. He stepped back, giving me space to process. The one who's been failing at that job because the treaty magic has been weakening without a silver moon heir to renew it. Alpha King. The words echoed in my mind like thunder. I'd married the most powerful werewolf on the continent, and he'd been hiding it from me for a month. Why didn't you tell me? Because I have enemies, Luna. Packs who want to see me fail, who'd use you to get to me. Foreign supernatural factions who'd kill you rather than let the treaty be renewed. His expression darkened. And because I wanted you to choose me. Max Jackson, the man, not the crown. Before I could respond, his phone erupted with urgent calls. Max's face went white as he answered. What do you mean they breached the perimeter? He was already moving, heading for the penthouse with deadly purpose. How many? Where's Marcus? No, don't engage until I get there. What's happening? I followed him inside, fear clawing at my chest. The Crimson Claw Pack. They found us. Max was pulling weapons from hidden compartments I'd never noticed. Silver bullets, wolfsbane grenades, blades that gleamed with supernatural sharpness. Luna, I need you to go to the safe room. Now. The what? Behind the bookshelf in my study. There's a panic room with communication equipment and enough supplies to last a week. Promise me you'll. The penthouse windows exploded inward in a shower of glass and snarls. Wolves poured through the opening, massive, black-furred beasts with red eyes and foam flecking their muzzles. But these weren't ordinary wolves. They moved with military precision, spreading out to cut off escape routes while their leader, a scarred brute the size of a small car, focused on me with hunger that made my skin crawl. The silver moon bitch, he growled, his voice distorted by his shifted form. Finally, Max stepped between us, and power rolled off him in waves that made the attacking wolves stumble. When he shifted, the transformation was unlike anything I'd ever witnessed. His wolf was enormous, pure black with silver markings, radiating authority that made every instinct in my body want to submit. This wasn't just an alpha. This was the alpha, the king every other werewolf answered to. The battle was brutal and swift. Max tore through the attackers like they were paper, but more kept coming. I pressed myself against the wall, human and useless, watching the man I just realized I loved fight for both our lives. Then one of them broke through Max's defenses, claws raking across his ribs. He stumbled, blood spraying across the marble floor, and the scarred leader lunged for his throat. I moved without thinking. My shift was instantaneous, power flooding through me as my silver wolf burst free. I hit the leader mid-leap, sending us both crashing into the kitchen island. His claws raked across my shoulder, but I barely felt the pain through the rage singing in my veins. He was strong, experienced, vicious, but I was Silver Moon. My teeth found his throat, and I tasted blood and victory. Around us, the remaining Crimson Claw wolves froze as their leader fell, then scattered like leaves in a hurricane. I shifted back to human form, shaking and covered in blood that wasn't all mine. Max was beside me instantly, pulling me against his chest with hands that trembled. Are you hurt? He demanded, checking me for injuries with frantic thoroughness. I'm fine. Are you? Luna. We turned to see Derek standing in the destroyed doorway, his face white with shock. Behind him, Scarlet cowered in the hallway, her green eyes wide with terror. What the hell is happening? Derek demanded, stepping over broken glass and werewolf corpses. We heard the fighting from downstairs, and when we got up here, his words died as he took in the destruction, the blood, the way Max and I clung to each other. You brought them here, Max said quietly, his voice deadly calm. What? No, we came to check. Not you. Max's silver eyes fixed on Scarlet with laser focus. Her. Scarlet pressed back against the wall, but there was nowhere to run. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? Max stalked toward her, every movement predatory. Tell me, Scarlet, When did the Crimson Claw Pack first contact you? When did they offer you Derek if you could keep Luna from awakening her heritage? Derek's face went slack with horror. Scarlet, tell him he's wrong. But Scarlet's facade was cracking, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. You don't understand, she said desperately. They threatened my family. Said they'd kill everyone I loved if I didn't help them. Help them how? I asked, though part of me already knew. Seduce Derek. Make him choose me over you. Keep you isolated, worthless, convinced you were defective. Tears ran down her cheeks, but they looked more like relief than regret. It was supposed to be simple. You were never supposed to find your wolf. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Not just Derek's infidelity, but the orchestrated cruelty of it. Years of being made to feel broken, worthless, defective, all by design. You destroyed my life for them, I whispered. Your life. Scarlet laughed, high and bitter. Luna, you have no idea what your existence cost the rest of us. Do you know what happens when Silver Moon magic is unleashed? Packs lose their autonomy. Alphas bow to a power that died decades ago. The Crimson Claw offered freedom. They offered chaos, Max interrupted. And you were fool enough to believe them. Derek looked between us like he was seeing strangers. Luna, what is she talking about? Silver Moon magic? What aren't you telling me? Before anyone could answer, the air in the room shifted. Temperature dropped 20 degrees, and moonlight began streaming through the destroyed windows despite the fact that it was still morning. A figure materialized in the center of the destruction, translucent, ethereal, but unmistakably familiar. The woman from my dreams, the one whose face mirrored mine. Grandmother? I breathed. Elena Silvermoon smiled, her form flickering like candlelight. When she spoke, her voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. Hello, granddaughter. I see you finally awakened. Derek stumbled backward, his face white with terror. Scarlet had fainted against the wall. But Max straightened, offering a respectful bow to my grandmother's spirit. Elena, it's been a long time. Not long enough, Alpha King. Her attention shifted back to me. Luna, child, the choice is coming. Sooner than we hoped, but the Crimson Claw's desperation has forced our hand. What choice? Crown or freedom? Love or duty? The Silver Moon bloodline comes with power beyond imagining, but also responsibility that will consume your entire life. Her expression was infinitely sad. Choose wisely, granddaughter. The fate of all packs rests in your decision. I don't understand. But she was already fading, her final words drifting through the air like whispers. 3 days, Luna. When the moon is dark, you must choose. The man you love, or the destiny you were born for. You cannot have both. The penthouse fell silent except for Derek's ragged breathing and Scarlet's unconscious whimpers. Max's hand found mine, squeezing gently. Luna, 3 days, I repeated numbly. She said I have 3 days to choose between you and my destiny. Then we'd better make them count, Max said, and when he kissed me this time, it tasted like goodbye. Chapter 5, The Omega's Crown. Queens aren't born, they're forged in fire. 3 days had never felt so short and so eternal at the same time. I spent them learning things about the supernatural world that no pack had ever taught me. Max opened every door, shared every secret, showed me the intricate web of politics and power that kept our people safe. The weight of it should have been crushing. Instead, it felt like coming home. The Crimson Claw won't wait much longer, Max said as we stood in his war room, studying maps marked with packed territories across North America. Their attack on the penthouse was just a test. They're mobilizing their entire army. How many? I asked, tracing the red markers that indicated enemy positions. 800, maybe more. His expression was grim. They've been recruiting from European packs, promising them territory in exchange for support. 800 trained warriors against whatever forces Max could gather. The math was terrifying. What about our allies? Every pack that's ever benefited from the treaty magic will answer the call. But Luna, he turned to face me, silver eyes dark with worry. Even with their help, this won't be easy. The Crimson Claw knows that killing you ends the Silver Moon line forever. They'll throw everything they have at us. I nodded, surprising myself with how calm I felt. 3 days ago, I'd been a woman struggling to choose between love and duty. Now I understood that some choices weren't really choices at all. They were inevitabilities. There's something else, Max said quietly. The coronation. It has to happen before the battle. Why? Because you need to be officially recognized as the Silver Moon Queen for the treaty magic to reach full strength. Without it, he didn't need to finish. Without it, we'd be fighting at half power against an enemy that outnumbered us 2-1. Then we do the coronation. Max's smile was proud and heartbroken at the same time. Luna, once you accept the crown, there's no going back. The magic will bind you to every pack in North America. Their safety becomes your responsibility. Their needs come before your own desires. You'll be queen, but you'll never again be free. And if I don't accept it, we lose. The treaty fails, the protections collapse, and the Crimson Claw tears apart everything we've built. His hand cupped my face gently. I won't lie to you. Being Alpha Queen will consume your life. It consumed your grandmother's, and it will consume yours. I leaned into his touch, memorizing the warmth of it. What about us? I don't know. The admission was raw, honest. Queens have married for political alliance before, but never to their mate. The magic might accept our bond, or it might demand you choose duty over personal attachment. So I might become queen and lose you anyway. It's possible. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of destiny settling on my shoulders like a mantle. When I opened them again, I saw my reflection in Max's silver gaze. And for the first time, I looked like a queen. Then we'd better hope the magic is smarter than we are. The coronation took place at midnight in the ancient stone chapel where Max and I had been married. But this time, the pews were filled with alpha representatives from every major pack in North America. The air hummed with so much supernatural power, I could taste it. Elder Thorn officiated, his weathered hand steady as he held the silver moon crown, a circlet of platinum and moonstone that had belonged to my grandmother and her grandmother before that. Luna Ashford Jackson, he intoned, his voice carrying to every corner of the sacred space. Descendant of the silver moon bloodline, heir to ancient power, do you accept the responsibilities that come with your heritage? I do. Do you swear to protect all packs under the treaty's protection, to put their welfare above your own, to rule with wisdom and strength until your dying breath? My heart hammered against my ribs. Once I said yes, everything changed. No more quiet mornings with Max. No more discovering who I was at my own pace. Just duty, responsibility, and the crushing weight of everyone's expectations. But I looked out at the faces watching me. Pack members who'd traveled hundreds of miles to witness this moment, alphas who'd risked everything to support the treaty renewal, ordinary werewolves who just wanted their families to be safe. I do. Elder Thorn placed the crown on my head, and the world exploded. Power rushed through me like a flood, connecting me to every pack, every territory, every wolf under the treaty's protection. I felt their hopes, their fears, their desperate need for someone strong enough to keep them safe. The weight was staggering, but underneath it was something else, love. Fierce, protective love for people I'd never met, but was now bound to serve. The magic settled into my bones, and when I stood, I wasn't just Luna anymore. I was Queen Luna, the silver moon ruler who would either save them all or die trying. Max stepped forward, offering a formal bow that made my heart ache. My queen, my king, I replied, because that's what protocol demanded. But when our eyes met, the mate bond sang with recognition that had nothing to do with politics and everything to do with love. The battle came at dawn. Crimson Claw forces hit our perimeter like a blood-red tide, their howls echoing across the valley as they charged. I stood on the ridge overlooking the battlefield, wearing silver armor that had been my grandmother's, feeling the combined strength of every allied pack flowing through the treaty bonds. 837, Max said, appearing at my side in his own battle gear. Marcus counted them from the air. And us, 612. But we have you. Below us, our forces took their positions. Alphas I'd only just met commanded their packs with military precision, while Max's elite guards formed the center line. It should have been inspiring. Instead, it felt like watching people prepare to die for a queen they barely knew. I can do this, I said, more to convince myself than him. I know you can. Max's hand found mine, squeezing gently. But remember, you're not fighting alone. The Crimson Claw charge hit our lines like thunder, and the battle began in earnest. I shifted, letting my Silver Wolf take control, and leaped into the fray. Fighting as the Silver Moon Queen was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. The treaty magic flowed through me with each move, connecting me to every ally on the battlefield. When a pack member fell, I felt their pain. When they struck an enemy, I shared their triumph. We moved as one organism, devastating and unified. But the Crimson Claw had numbers, and they fought with the desperation of soldiers who knew they could never retreat. For every enemy we brought down, two more seemed to take their place. Luna. I spun to see Derek fighting his way toward me, his brown wolf battered but determined. Behind him, Scarlet ran in human form, tears streaming down her face as she dodged claws and fangs. What are you doing here? I demanded as Derek shifted back to human form. The right thing, he said simply. Finally, before I could ask what he meant, Scarlet reached us, her green eyes wild with terror and determination. They're coming, she gasped. The Crimson Claw's elite unit. They have a weapon, something that can kill Silver Moon bloodlines, specifically. My blood went cold. How do you know? Because they told me. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Luna, everything I did, everyone I hurt. I thought I was protecting my family. But they were never going to let any of us live. They just needed me to keep you weak, until they could develop the weapon. The betrayal should have hurt more. Instead, I felt only sadness for the frightened girl who'd made terrible choices and was finally seeing their true cost. Where are they? I asked. Northwest Ridge. 20 of their best warriors, armed with silver arrows tipped with wolfsbane and something else. Something that makes Silver Moon wolves mortal. A weapon specifically designed to kill me. Of course, Derek, I said, making a decision that felt both inevitable and impossible. Get Scarlet to safety. That's an order from your queen. Luna, you want to make amends? Keep her alive. She's been manipulated enough. I shifted back to my wolf form, silver fur gleaming with battle-ready power. And Derek? Thank you for everything. I left them there and ran toward the Northwest Ridge, Max's panicked howl echoing behind me as he realized where I was going. The Crimson Claw elite unit was exactly where Scarlet had said they'd be. 20 of their finest warriors arranged in a perfect kill formation, silver arrows nocked and ready. At their center stood their commander, a massive brute with scars covering his muzzle and eyes that burned with fanatical hatred. The Silver Moon bitch comes to us, he snarled. Good. Saves us the trouble of hunting you down. You want me? I shifted to human form, standing proud despite facing impossible odds. Here I am. Indeed. His smile was all teeth. Do you know what these arrows will do to you? They'll strip away your magic first, make you human. Then they'll kill you slowly, painfully, while you watch your precious treaty crumble. Sounds unpleasant. Oh, it will be. But don't worry. We'll make sure your mate watches every moment before we kill him too. Rage exploded through me, silver and pure and devastating. The treaty magic responded, drawing power from every allied wolf on the battlefield, and suddenly I wasn't facing 20 enemies. I was the Silver Moon Queen, backed by the collective strength of 600 warriors who'd sworn to follow me. The battle was brief and brutal. I moved like lightning given form, tearing through their ranks with supernatural grace. Arrows flew toward me but seemed to bend away at the last second, deflected by magic older than any weapon they could craft. One by one, the elite unit fell, until only their commander remained. Impossible, he gasped, silver blood pooling beneath him. The weapon, it should have worked. Your weapon was designed to kill a silver moon heir, I said, kneeling beside him as life faded from his eyes. But I'm not just an heir anymore. I'm the queen, and queens don't die easily. When I returned to the main battlefield, the Crimson Claw forces were already retreating. Word of their elite unit's destruction had spread like wildfire, breaking their will to fight. Our victory was complete, decisive, and bought with far less blood than anyone had dared hope. Max found me standing over the enemy commander's body, still processing what had happened. He pulled me against his chest without a word, and I felt his relief in the fierce way he held me. It's over, he whispered against my hair. Yes, I agreed. It's over. But I knew this was also a beginning. The first battle of my reign, but certainly not the last. 1 year later, I stood on the balcony of the Silver Moon Palace, rebuilt on the site where my grandmother's pack had once thrived, watching my children play in the garden below. Twins, born 6 months after the Crimson Claw defeat, with their father's silver eyes and their mother's stubborn determination. Elena, named for my grandmother, had shifted for the first time last week, revealing a silver coat that glowed like starlight. Marcus, named for the Alpha who died defending the treaty, showed every sign of inheriting his father's command presence. They were perfect, beautiful, the future of the Silver Moon bloodline, and proof that love and duty didn't have to be mutually exclusive. Admiring your handiwork, Max appeared beside me, sliding his arms around my waist and pulling me back against his chest. They're remarkable. They're exactly what they should be, half you, half me, and entirely themselves. He pressed a kiss to my temple. How are you feeling? I considered the question seriously. A year ago, I'd been a broken girl, convinced she was defective. Now I was the most powerful Luna Queen in centuries, mate to the Alpha King, mother to the next generation of Silver Moon royalty. Complete, I said finally. For the first time in my life, I feel complete. Even with all the responsibility, the politics, the constant demands, especially with those things. I turned in his arms, studying the face of the man who'd given me everything I never knew I wanted. Turns out I was never meant for a small life, Max. I was meant for this. A crown suits you better than I ever imagined it would. Good thing, since I can never take it off. Would you want to? I looked out over the territory that was now mine to protect, at the pack members who looked to me for guidance, at the children who would grow up safe because of choices I'd made. Then I looked at Max, my mate, my king, my partner in every way that mattered. No, I said honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. A commotion in the garden drew our attention. Derek was chasing the twins around the fountain, playing some elaborate game that involved a lot of giggling and mock ferocious growling. He'd requested transfer to palace security after the Crimson Claw defeat, claiming he wanted to serve his queen properly. I suspected he also wanted to understand how a woman he'd once pitied had become someone he could only look up to. He's good with them, Max observed. He is, and he's happy, I think. Finally found his place. Protecting instead of possessing. Something like that. Scarlet appeared at the garden gate, carrying fresh flowers from the memorial garden she'd helped design in honor of those lost in the battle. She'd stayed after the war ended, claiming she had nowhere else to go. But I knew the truth. She was trying to atone for her part in the deception that had nearly destroyed us all. It was slow work, earning forgiveness for betrayal that deep. But I'd learned that queens had to be capable of mercy as well as justice. Dinner in an hour? Max asked. I was distracted by Elena, who was attempting to climb Derek like a tree while he pretended to be a fearsome dragon. Max, yeah, thank you for finding me, for seeing what I could become, for giving me the choice even when you knew what I'd choose. Thank you for choosing us, all of us. His arms tightened around me, even when it meant giving up your freedom. I laughed, surprising us both with how genuine it sounded. Freedom? Max, I spent 23 years trapped in other people's expectations of what I should be. This isn't imprisonment. This is finally being free to become everything I was meant to be. Below us, Elena managed to defeat the dragon Derek, standing triumphant on his chest while Marcus cheered. Both children had grass stains on their clothes and flowers in their hair, looking exactly like the carefree royalty they were. Besides, I added, watching my daughter help Derek to his feet with solemn courtesy, someone has to make sure those two grow up knowing they're loved, not just revered. Think we can manage that? I think, I said, pulling him down for a kiss that tasted like moonlight and promises we can manage anything. The Silver Moon Queen had found her throne, her mate, and her purpose. And for the first time in generations, the future looked bright as silver starlight. Some women were born to be queens. Others were forged in the fire of betrayal and loss, emerging stronger than anyone, including themselves, had ever dreamed possible. I was both, and I wouldn't have it any other way. If you enjoyed this werewolf romance audiobook, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you in the next one.